brought to you by Thomas Allgaier and Frennis. This edition highlights key LinkedIn posts on future mobility and market evolution in weeks 43 and 44. Frennis supports enterprises with market and competitive intelligence decoding disruptive technologies, customer needs, regulatory change, and competitive moves so product teams and strategy leaders don't just react, but shape the future of mobility. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Our goal today, well, it's to give you a really focused look at the sharpest thinking from the mobility world over the last couple of weeks. We've sifted through curated LinkedIn content to pull out the really high-value insights on what's actually moving strategically.
Yeah, it's definitely needed. What we're seeing in the sources, especially from weeks 43 and 44, is that we're kind of past that early frothy phase. The signals are pretty clear.
Yeah.
The industry is knuckling down on execution.
Execution meaning?
Meaning integrated systems, proven financial models, especially in shared mobility, and a big push on policy frameworks that actually work for market readiness, particularly in Europe, actually.
Okay, let's start there then, with the big picture. We need to understand the scale of the opportunity because, well, that context explains a lot of the intensity we're seeing around policy.
Right, and when you look at Europe, the numbers are just staggering. Dr. Andreas Meenhaus shared a forecast showing the European future mobility market potentially surging from about $92 billion this year
2023, yeah.
all the way up to $246 billion by 2035.
Wow, okay. That's almost a tripling in, just over a decade. That certainly raises the stakes for every regulatory decision, every infrastructure debate. But where's that growth coming from? Is it just more EVs?
Interestingly, no. Not just EVs. That huge number confirms value is shifting fast away from the metal, the vehicle itself, and towards the code, the software, the services.
Okay.
The two fastest growing bits. EV charging services, they're projected to hit something like $35 billion by 2035. And ADAS, Advanced Driver Assistance Systems.
Right. Charging and ADAS. That really underscores the move towards recurring revenue, doesn't it? Charging is like a utility. ADAS is upgradable software.
Exactly. It's a whole different ballgame for OEMs and suppliers. Moving from that old CapEx model to, well, a service-based OpEx approach. But getting to that $246 billion, that needs serious coordination.
Politically.
Strategically. Both. Tomas Gabor made a strong point about this. Europe's future isn't just about isolated projects. It really hinges on, coordinated policy across electrification, shared mobility, digital integration, all of it together.
And he used some pretty strong language, didn't he? Something about wartime urgency to cut through the usual red tape.
He did.
Yeah.
Which highlights the challenge, right? Getting 27 nations aligned on standards quickly. That's tough.
A huge lift, yeah.
Which is probably why we're seeing cities kind of taking the lead, trying things out.
Yeah.
Senator Tillikainen flagged a really interesting example. Cities moving away from those old school single vendor parking tenders.
Where one company gets all the parking spots, basically runs the show.
Precisely that. Now, cities are trying out this open market model. They set the rules, data standards, payment integration, quality, but then multiple providers can compete.
Smart. So the city keeps control of the goal, but uses competition to drive innovation.
Exactly. And it's designed specifically to speed up digital collaboration around parking, payments, data. All the stuff that feeds into MaaS, mobility as a service.
And we're seeing that flow into procurement, too, like Amsterdam.
Yeah, J. Smith noted Amsterdam's moving ahead with a smart mobility hub tender. They're not just buying parking spaces or vehicles anymore. They're procuring multimodal capacity, deep service integration. It's almost like they're buying a placemaking service that connects different transport systems.
Okay, that's a perfect lead-in to shared mobility itself. Let's talk micromobility. For years, it felt a bit like, well, a VC-funded experiment burning cash. But the recent posts suggest maybe it's hitting financial maturity.
The signs are definitely there. It's quite striking, actually. Fredicom reported that Voi hit EBIT profitability in Q3.
Profitability, really?
Yeah, profitable, with net revenue growth up 34% year over year, generating, I think it was 20 million euros in operating cash flow. It's a real inflection point.
It really is. When a big player goes from just surviving to actually making money operationally, it changes how investors look at the whole sector.
And you can see that shift. Craven Joel Jones and Alan Price both flagged major funding news. Thought secured, $85 million? And Voi got a valuation markup of 7%.
A markup.
Yeah.
That's the key signal, isn't it? As Jones pointed out, when investors start increasing valuations instead of writing them down, it suggests the industry's climbing out of that trough.
Definitely feels like it. And that scale is also turning into real public utility, which you need for long-term acceptance. Paris is a great example, shared by Alex Pazikanex and Julian Chemisi.
What's happening in Paris?
Well, shared e-bike prices are getting really close to the cost of taking the metro. Voy had this intro price, $2.99 for 30 minutes. For a lot of trips, that makes the e-bike faster and cheaper than public transport.
That's a game changer for commuters.
Absolutely. And Chemisi added that Paris saw over 8 million shared rides in September 2025 alone across all the operators. That's massive adoption.
It really reframes it, doesn't it? From micromobility is a fun extra to micromobility is actually rational, efficient transport. But amidst all this success, there was a critical voice too, Ulrich Jensen. He suggested we should maybe stop saying micromobility and start saying light mobility.
Yeah, that was interesting. His focus was really on the hardware, the bikes themselves. He was criticizing this trend towards really heavy e-bikes, 30, 40 kilograms, almost like mopeds with pedals.
You see them around, they look pretty chunky.
Exactly. And Jensen argues these heavy bikes kind of miss the point of the movement, which should be about light, human-scale, efficient designs. And crucially, these heavier bikes raise new safety issues on paths meant for bicycles.
Designing for efficiency and safety, not just adding a motor to something heavy,
Right.
which connects to another issue, a big barrier Johannes Feigenbaum highlighted, the policy gap.
Right, the e-cargo bike trial.
Yeah, in the UK, showed e-cargo bikes could replace half of car trips for certain uses, huge potential. But adoption is stuck. Policy issues, mainly the high upfront cost and worries about theft. There just aren't good support mechanisms yet.
So the tech works, people would use it, but the practicalities, the cost, the risk, stop it from scaling.
Pretty much. So how do you fix that if policy is slow? Alexandra Lanik shared a really neat example from Morocco.
What are they doing?
Stellantis Maroc partnered with Al Bared Bank. Basically, the bank offers financing covering up to 80% of the vehicle cost for entrepreneurs using these micro vehicles.
So bringing the manufacturer and the finance provider together to solve the user's capital problem.
Exactly. A smart collaborative workaround when policy lags behind.
Okay, let's shift gears again. Autonomous vehicles, AVs. What's the latest thinking there? Seems like the strategy is evolving.
Yeah, definitely a pivot happening. Moving away from just, buying sensors and software towards much more vertical control.
Sounds like Uber's strategy that Daniel Bro-Marquez detailed.
Precisely. Uber's setting this incredibly aggressive target. 100,000 vehicle autonomous fleet, all powered by NVIDIA.
100,000. Wow. And the key thing is the approach. They're aiming for ownership and control, standardizing on platforms like NVIDIA's Hyperion 10, working closely with OEMs like Stellantis. It's a major strategic shift.
From being just the network platform to actually controlling the vehicle supply, that's a big change for them.
It really is. It suggests they now see standardized, reliable, autonomous supply as the main bottleneck, maybe more than just user demand. The competition might be shifting to who can source and maintain the biggest, most efficient standardized fleet.
Makes sense. But this progress isn't like flipping a switch, is it? Dustin Friedel had that great analogy.
The staircase analogy.
Yeah. Reminding us that autonomy develops step by step across different areas. Robotaxis, trucking, last-mile delivery bots. It's not one single hockey stick breakthrough.
Yeah, that staircase idea is so important for managing expectations. Each step up, say, from L3 hands-off to L4 limited geofence autonomy, needs huge investment. Tons of testing, specific learning for that domain. It's gradual, it's expensive.
And just scaling these fleets throws up new practical challenges people might not think about. Like, where do 100,000 robotaxis go to charge?
Warren McDonald dug into this. As these fleets scale, charging won't just happen at random public stations. It's going to shift heavily towards managed, dedicated fleet depots.
For efficiency.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's about optimizing utilization, minimizing downtime, scheduling vehicles precisely. Charging becomes a core logistics function, not just plugging in when convenient.
And then there's the human element, trust. Ulrich Buchenley pointed out that something like 70% of drivers are already uneasy about sharing their own private cars. Worries about hygiene, condition, data privacy.
Right. And that's just sharing with other humans. Now imagine a shared autonomous vehicle. Buchenley argued the real missing piece for shared AVs might not be smarter AI, but automated maintenance.
Systems that can clean the car, recharge it, check it over reliably between users.
Exactly. You can't build trust if the car feels grubby or isn't ready when you need it. Self-maintenance becomes crucial.
That whole challenge seems to feed into why Europe is taking a more cautious path, maybe, compared to the rapid scaling we see from Waymo in the US or Baidu in China.
I think so. Lucas Ackerman and Mihai Churka both emphasize this. Europe seems to be prioritizing a slower rollout, focused on shared autonomous shuttles, integrated with existing public transit, rather than just flooding streets with free-floating robotaxis.
So viewing AVs as part of the broader public transport system.
Yeah. The consensus in European studies seems to be that the big societal benefits, less congestion, cleaner air, only really happen if these AV fleets are shared, electric, and ideally have rules about occupancy. It's about integrated capacity, not just a driverless taxi service.
Which brings us neatly to that integration piece. If all these different modes, electric, autonomous, micro, are maturing, it all depends on how the physical bits and the digital bits connect. We talk a lot about MOS. Where's the real value seen in MOS development?
Overwhelmingly digital. Oliver Wyman forecasts that digital services supporting mobility could explode from around $42 billion today to, wait for it, $610 billion by 2035.
$600 billion, okay. But making MOS actually work, it hinges on
Interoperability.
Yeah.
Simple as that. If the systems don't talk to each other smoothly, it falls apart.
And what makes that interoperability happen? What are the levers?
Things like open APIs so different services can connect. Account-based ticketing, so you have one account for everything. System-wide fare capping, so you never pay more than a daily or weekly maximum, no matter how many modes you use.
Makes sense. Takes the friction out for the user.
Absolutely. That's what drives the behavior change away from private cars. But, and this is critical, public transport has to be the reliable backbone of any MOS system. If the trains and buses aren't good, the whole digital layer on top doesn't matter much.
Right, got it. So that's the digital side. What about the physical integration points, these mobility hubs we see appearing? What makes one work well versus just being, a sad corner with some chargers?
Lars Christian Gridem-Olsen made a really key point here. Hubs fail when they're just built for vehicles, a collection of chargers and scooters stuck somewhere inconvenient.
Functional, but not appealing.
Exactly. They succeed when they're integrated into places people already go, near supermarkets, cafes, maybe some green space. They need to feel like part of the community fabric, designed for people first, vehicles second. Micro ecosystems, basically.
Making them desirable places, not just necessary ones. And how you communicate that matters too, right? The branding.
Hugely important. Robin Tyne highlighted how consistency builds understanding. Like in Berlin, their Jelby hubs use the exact same name and bright yellow branding as the main public transport app, BVG.
Ah, so you instantly know this is part of the system.
Precisely. That visual link creates an invisible bridge. It tells the user this connects, this works together, you can trust it.
Okay, and my favorite integration detail I saw mentioned from David McCall was about London's Somerstown. They're doing something with rain gardens.
Yeah, it's brilliant. They're not just putting in sustainable drainage, they're physically designing and aligning these rain gardens with pedestrian walkways, bike storage locations, and transit stops.
So the green infrastructure actively supports the mobility function.
Exactly. It's blending sustainability, stormwater management, better public space, and transit access all into one thoughtful design. It elevates the hub from just infrastructure to a genuinely positive neighborhood amenity.
If you enjoyed this episode, new episodes drop every 2 weeks. Also check out our other editions on electrification and battery technology, next-gen vehicle intelligence, and commercial fleet insights.
Looking at all these pieces together, the policy urgency, micromobility finding its financial feed, the AV strategy shifts, the absolute necessity of digital and physical integration, it really shows the future of mobility isn't about waiting for some single magic bullet technology.
Right.
It's about the hard, often complex work of integration, connecting policy, technology, infrastructure, and crucially, user behavior. Understanding how all those trends intersect is, well, it's essential if you want to move from just reacting to the future to actually helping shape it.
Couldn't agree more. A great point to end on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive, and remember to subscribe for more insights. We'll catch you next time.